Hello, welcome to Mountain Craft Studio. My name's Christine. Come on in and I'll show you what I've been working on. So I've continued to work on my Simple Harmony stitch along project, the Forget Me Not sampler by Modern Folk Embroidery. The stitch along tutorials are hosted by Katie Strachan, Katie Strachan Embroidery. And I've come a long ways. I'm to the point now where I almost have the lid finished. I'm actually going to do a little bit different filming today. I'm going to try to film some things from overhead in order to give you a closer look. So we'll see how this goes. I'm thinking that I know how to blend it together at the end in editing, but I might not. So this might look a little weird, but we'll see what we can come up with. So as you can see, this is the layout of the lid. Underneath where you see the darker white, or the brighter white, is the pattern for the lid. You can see from the top to the bottom, my size is going to be perfect whenever I go to do the blocking. I think it's going to fit perfectly. However, the one thing that was different from mine to Katie's is that I have gads of room left over on both sides of the project. And I think that what could have been the difference is maybe she cut her fabric maybe horizontally and I did mine vertically or something to that effect. But as she mentions in her tutorials, you do need to make sure that you check this before you start putting your box together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a few more rows here to finish this motif off, and the same on this side. There's going to be a small piece of trim all the way around all of these edges that can cover tiny differences, but this is too much. That would show as a gap. So I still have that left to do, and I think I need a couple of numbers still on the edge here. I wanted to figure out where those were going to go. You'll notice my letters are a little bit different. I decided to go ahead and randomly put Forget Me Not on the top, and then on the side of the box, once I get to it, I'm actually going to have it the family name to go all the way around the side of the box. It'll say Johnson, that's the family name, and then on the back she had I think her initials and date, and I think I may end up doing something like that as well. So I'm getting ready to start moving on. I'm excited now. I've started stitching the sides, and I'm ready to start thinking about how to finish off the box. And I have some, Katie in her tutorial, she had the most beautiful paper that she put, decorative paper, along the edges there. I thought they were gorgeous. But since I'm trying to make this into a family heirloom type box, I've decided to use on that edge only some actual old paper. This is actually just old ledger paper. Now, obviously, this isn't acid-free. I'm also going to put it on the lid in the same location, right here. And I believe possibly on the bottom of the box as well. The as I said, it's not acid free. I know that it's not acid free, but on that particular spot on the box, it's not really going to matter. The inside of the box, however, where I'm going to be putting things, I'm going to use the mushroom chenille inside the bottom. It does look plain, I'll give you that, but you'll understand in a minute. So this would be what's inside the box. This will be on the edge. This will also be on the sides. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is kind of recreating a box that's in our family. I do have other options I have a silk that could go in there. I have some wools that could go in there. Some kind of cheap, I don't know what this is. It was in the inside of a coat at one point. Again, another one, and some, I don't know where this came from or why I ever bought this, but this is a remnant of some fun, I guess it's, I don't know what even to call it. It's polyester, I know that. Anyway, I opted those out after I came up with the idea that I wanted to mimic this particular box. So I'm gonna move this out of the way because I think you'll be able to see a little bit better this way. So this is actually a box that belonged to my great-great-grandfather. He kept not all, but a lot of the letters that his brother, who was a soldier in the Civil War, had written to him in this box, along with a lot of other things. The just family letters, generally from about the Civil War until the 1920s, because he had, his daughter, which was my great-grandmother, inherited the box. And if you look at this particular box on the inside, it's just a piece of fabric on the sides. The outside used to be a blue, bright blue velvet. The bottom actually has something about the, what is it, FFY? Fruit Company. I think it was a giveaway. You know, maybe it was a Christmas, one of those Christmas things where they would gift you some candied oranges or something like that is what I'm kind of envisioning. But you can see this is not a pristine condition box. It's been through the paces. So, but this is the box that was in my family that kept all those fabulous letters. What I'm doing is I have the letters. I'm scanning the letters and putting them into files. There's all kinds of different people wrote at different times and that sort of thing. And so I am attempting to scan all these so everybody in the family can have a copy for one thing, and also the box, this particular old box and these old letters need to go back to my cousin. They actually don't, it passed down in their family and I need to get it back to them. But I still want some of that for my family. And I know that there's other cousins who want it for their family. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to recreate more or less this box. So I have some old paper that I'm going to print these letters on, and I'm going to keep those in the box once it's finished. But I also have a photograph. So this photograph is Minnie. This is my great-grandmother. She's the one who has a lot of these letters were written to. And the baby is my grandmother. So this obviously needs to go in the box. And I think I've mentioned before in one of my previous episodes what I'm planning on doing under the lid. So I've decided that the photograph is going to need to go under the lid at the back. I'll have some type of fabric underneath there. Then the photograph will go there. But then I want a piece that that's covered in the velvet that I will pull out, and there will be a folded family tree chart that you can then pull out, accordion file type thing that you can pull out and see. I think that would be really neat. And I would like to have, just make sure, because I don't have any photographs of, unfortunately, of her father. I have a couple of old tintypes. It might be him, but I don't know for sure. But anyway, so that's the idea. That's where I'm headed with this. And that's why I end up choosing that particular fabric to go inside the box. Because whatever goes in here, I mentioned in the last episode of making some little smalls and things like that to go in the box, along with the letters that I'm planning to put in here. I don't want those to be up against anything that's not acid-free, because it's going to obviously deteriorate quickly, just like the old box has. So that's pretty much it on that particular, of where I'm at on that particular box. One of the other things, though, I found when I was looking through the old box was this little handwritten, hopefully you can see that well. If not, I'll take a picture. This is the initials of her husband. So her husband was Jess Brooks. I believe she probably used this as a pattern to do some white work, I would think, maybe at that point in time, or some other embroidery. So what I would like to do is figure out what to put inside the box that I could embroider those initials on. I think that would be kind of neat. It seems like it might be a little too big for a handkerchief. I don't know. Have you seen a handkerchief with letters that large? If not, I could maybe do a napkin. But obviously it's something that needs to be fairly small because I have several items that need to go in the box. But I thought that was kind of fun. So I'm excited about getting this box finished. I can see the end in sight. And so I'm really pretty much focusing mainly on stitching just this project. I've got a couple other little smalls that while I have to wait for one thing, I stitch on, but for the most part, this is my main focus these days. If you are interested in making boxes, I have a book that is, I have found interesting. I've had this for quite a while. It's Embroidered Boxes. It's by the Royal School of Needlework, and it actually has some really great instructions in here. You could pretty much, with Katie's tutorials online and this box, you can pretty much make anything that your little heart desires. It's all pretty much covered in there. But I just wanted to throw out that this is out there, and these are definitely more approachable boxes. They're not quite as overwhelming as some of the embroidered boxes that have, 100 years of stitching on it. And then when I'm not looking up research for that line of the family, that would be my grandmother's line. That's her right there. Yes, I do see a little bit of a resemblance. I've never did before. Now that I'm getting older, I'm definitely seeing a little bit of a resemblance. Now that I've been working on her family, I have pretty much all of it traced back as far as I think I'll ever get it traced. It's time to move on. And this is my grandfather. And my grandfather was from Sweden, and he came to the United States in the 1920s. And so I am very much interested in all things Swedish. And I love the aesthetic. I like if you saw the video of the studio tour and you saw the outside of the studio I've painted red with a yellow door. That's very typical of Swedish style. You see that color combination all over in the country in Sweden. And so I just really love the Swedish antiques, everything, the whole aesthetic. And I have found it very difficult to find anything about Swedish samplers. So I've continued to look for several years, but you rarely see them come up, and you rarely see any reproductions that you can just go out and buy. There's a couple. I have a couple, but I have been following a few people on Instagram for years that I love. They're in Sweden, and I love the way they decorate their homes, and I love all of the antiques that they show. And it just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I was able to purchase some antique samplers. And I'm going to show this to you now. They are gorgeous. I love them. Starting off, though, let me pull this over here so that we can see. Starting off, I bought this lot of Swedish samplers, and how this sampler ended up in there, I have no idea. Because this is actually, hopefully you can see, I may need to scooch in a little more there. So this is a humble little sampler by Carolyn Radwell. And you can see where it says British School, 1952, or 1852, sorry. Isn't that the sweetest thing? So this sampler made its way somehow to Sweden, but I don't believe it was actually stitched there. I've been trying to do a little bit of research on these British schools. There's a possibility it may have. They did do some international schools where they would take and teach in other places, but I suspect that this was actually one of the British schools that was in England, that was started by a Quaker. He believed that in order to teach the poor, the best way would be to gather them all up, and the instructors would teach the oldest children, and those children would then turn around and teach the younger students, and then the cost of teaching would be less. And it held on for the secular type school for many, many years. I just thought it was interesting that it was a Quaker, and it ended up in my family. Strange. But these, by studying this particular sampler, I can tell that these are, it did actually have different colors. It was, they used natural dyes on whatever floss she was using. I believe that this, even the linen was more of a yellow color. And the reason I think that is that some of this, there's some stitching that it was stitched on at one point that was yellow, and I think that that probably blended in at the time. It sticks out now. But let me carefully turn this over. When you're handling antique samplers at this age, I do recommend that you keep something underneath them, like this paper, to support them as you're studying them. Just the weight, gravity alone will damage them. You can see the yellow a little bit more when you study the border here. There's still some yellow in there. So I think it was, again, dyed with a natural dye, and it's over time lost that color. The same with this line is clearly different than the others. But what I found the most interesting about this is, as I sat here studying it, it wasn't that they repaired it with a bright red thread, but they stitched it. Caroline stitched all of it with 2 threads with just one part of the cross, and then she came back with 1 thread and did the other part of the cross. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if they were just conserving thread, floss, or what that was about. I just thought it was a fun little thing. I'm sure Caroline was not very old and had not learned how to keep it quite as neat as some of the other samplers you're about to see. But I hope that she turned out to be successful, because the whole idea of this was to teach the poor and allow them to be more self-sufficient. I hope that worked out. The next sampler is a Swedish sampler. Now, I love the Swedish samplers. They are my favorite. Let me see if I can get you. There we go. Generally, the Swedish samplers, you'll notice they're kind of all in the same format. They have the alphabets up at the top, 1 or 2, one in block letters, one in italic type font. You'll also find then the motifs underneath. There's always a field of motifs, and then a very simple border, although they may be different. And in this case, that's the truth. There's 4 different borders going around. Now, the stripes that you're seeing here and here are actually woven into the fabric. The Swedish textiles, or the Swedes, I guess I should say, were incredibly into weaving. You'll find all types of things household linens and things like that that are woven. They really were the I'm not sure what I want to say. They really liked their weaving more so than a lot of the other decorative arts. This, there's so many things on this I love. It's hard to say. There is a date, it's 1873. It's right here. Her name is on here, which is unusual because they rarely ever sign their names in Sweden. This is Lotten, Lotten. That is a nickname for Charlotte that was very common in Scandinavia, primarily in Sweden. And the other thing I thought was interesting to point out is because this was stitched onto a woven piece that had these limitations of how much space is available. If you look at the Y here, she stitched the Y and then she plowed right over it with the border and even the next letter. And the same down here, you can see the 7 and the 9 also just get stitched right over, literally stitched over the other one that was already stitched. I thought it was cute. But I love the colors on this just as it is. As faded as this is, I think it's beautiful. When this one arrived, it had been attached to a piece of paper that was absolutely not acid-free. It was doing some serious damage, so I removed that, and it miraculously made this a lot easier to see now. But it also just, I'm not sure that the colors on the back are correct either because of that. I think they may have changed a little bit. So I'm going to try to turn this over so that you can see the back. So there's a lot more purple. There are various shades of green. Some blue on these flowers over here. It always amazes me. There's a blue on the border down here. And the colors, there's definitely more difference in the letters. It's beautiful. I love this. Love this. It's got, and what's interesting is the weave is quite large. It's going to be quite a big stitch count as far as being able to stitch it on something that's not microscopic. I am, of course, planning to chart these as I go along. It won't be tomorrow, but hopefully someday, soon. This next sampler is what I call the FH. There are initials on here. You can barely see them because they're microscopic, but they are on here. I'm gonna have to see if I can get you up. There they are. The F and the H. This one I really like. This is 1868. We have, the color is just phenomenal, right? It's just gorgeous. Why am I not able to get the entire thing in here? Here we go. The one thing that I love the most is the additional letters of the Swedish alphabet are right up here. If you can see those, maybe. There we go. Right here. And then just this style of alphabet is interesting. I love that. But I think one of the things I like the most is this little, isn't that cute? There's been some discussion, I don't think it's a handbag. Would they have had handbags in 1868? Is it a carpet bag? Is it a basket? I don't know. It's cute, whatever it is. And this dragonfly thing here, how cute is that? It's a deer that's adorable. But this little boy and his dog. Look how tiny those stitches are. This is over 1 on a microscopic thread count. And one of the things that I'm hoping somebody out there knows a little bit more about Swedish samplers than I do and can explain why there's always a chair. Or almost always a chair. I think that's interesting. Clearly it signifies something. I don't know if that's the throne or what. There's a crown on some of them, so maybe that's the throne. But I love this one. It's so pretty. Let's see what the back looks like. You didn't realize that was purple, did you? Isn't that fun? The colors on the back are so pretty that the first alphabet up at the top is kind of a teal. Then it kind of goes to gold, and then there's a little bit of purple. This blue-gray on this alphabet really jumps out at you. And the greens are just an interesting shade of green. I just love that. And that dragonfly actually has one of its wings, or maybe that's its, I don't know, whatever that is. It's a little bit lavender. So fun. Look at the stitching though. Like there's no threads that are just hanging out all over. The only place you can see it at all where she crossed anything is right in this section. It's crazy. Absolutely gorgeous. I love that. And then my favorite, and the one that started me down this path, is the next one that I absolutely love. Okay. So again, going back and talking about the typical style of the Swedish samplers, you'll see this shape with their initials in lots and lots and lots of them. If you go out and look online at the samplers that are available in museums and things like that, you'll see that's very common. And the naming conventions of my Swedish ancestors and everybody's Swedish ancestors gets very confusing. So it's really hard to figure out who's who, and to be able to research who made the project. It's hard enough to try to research your ancestors because they used to, you would be named like my stepdad's actually, his last name is Carlson. Well, he was Carl's son. There was no surname that was attached to the child. It was their first name instead, which makes no sense, but that's what they did. And so researching these samplers, when you don't know where it came from, you don't know who made it, and all you have is initials and a date, makes it pretty much impossible to track down who it was, unfortunately. So, but there are things I love about this sampler anyway. It was made in 1810. There are the special at least one of the special characters of the Swedish alphabet is on there. There are other things. There's more of those thrones or chairs. I love the symmetry. I love that. There's also, you'll see ladders a lot, which I think is probably some sort of biblical reference. You rarely see biblical, actually you rarely see any script as far as sayings or any of that sort of stuff. They were very much purely samplers for learning how to do your stitches and things like that. They really were, their primary focus was just to practice your embroidery so that you could embroider other things, because they have beautiful things that are embroidered. They just didn't make beautiful things to go on a wall with writing on it and that sort of thing. And I think partly is because of the Bible verses. You didn't want to advertise your religious beliefs. if you weren't in line with what the king was doing, you know, you could have gotten in trouble for that and things like that. So I think that's probably why we don't see a lot of writing. I could be completely wrong. To me that makes sense, and I've read it a couple of places. But if anybody knows differently and can inform me, I would be the first person to admit that I'm not an expert by any means. I'm trying to become more of an expert. But the colors on this are so pretty. Even the faded colors here are just gorgeous. They remind me of a blackbird chart, don't you think? Like, it's those soft, muted, beautiful colors. So we're going to turn this over because I know you're going to want to see this. The camera's not quite picking up how bright these colors are, unfortunately. I'll move you down a little bit and zoom you in. I wanted to point out, look at this. I love this. It took me a while to figure out that was a bird. Aren't these cute? There's also a lot of keys and teapots. Love it. This is the tiniest, I have not measured the count of weave on the linen yet, but it is super tiny. Yeah, really, really small. So this will be much larger when it's reproduced, because I'm not going to stitch it that small. I can tell you that now. Anyway, if you want to stitch a Swedish sampler and you don't want to wait for me to finally get around to charting those, there are a few on the market, and I have a couple of right here that I'll show you. So this one, I'm gonna move this out of the way. Hopefully we're still filming over there. This is Erica Katrina Amundsen. Say Amundsen. 1870 by the Assembler. I ordered this one before I had found the Swedish samplers, the antique Swedish samplers, and it also it's surprising because it actually does have her name on there. I think that's incredible. The fact that it's later, 1870, might have part of that. But I thought it was also interesting. There's a motif there at the bottom that's more or less a weaving motif that you see a lot in their textiles. So it all translates, which I thought was interesting. I need to know what the anchor means too, because you see an anchor on almost all of them. But this came as a kit, and I'll definitely be stitching this as soon as I can. Then 1884 Stitchery has this one. She's not advertising it as a Swedish sampler, but it has to be a Swedish sampler. It looks exactly like the ones that you see online at all the museums. And I love how much colorful it is. It's just gorgeous. I'm definitely stitching this one as soon as I can. I like the dog. And I like the fact that this one also has a name. Helene or Helen Sorensen. 1896. So, trying to learn more about the Scandinavian textiles and things like that. I've studied extensively the weaving. That loom that I have behind me is actually a Swedish loom. They do their weaving differently than what we do here in the United States, and their method of weaving makes more sense to me. The way that they read a chart, the way they warp their loom and stuff like that. It's just more, it makes more sense to me. But there was a period of time in the United States where weaving almost died out. It was after that Industrial Revolution when everybody woven blankets and things like that became super easy. You could order one from a catalog and that sort of stuff. Weaving nearly died, and it was only by some people in the Appalachian region who still were weaving the way they always had, and a few people along the East Coast that saved the art. And at that time, though, things had changed because they changed the type of loom people were using. People weren't using these giant looms anymore, and they wanted small looms that you could fit in a corner or tuck away in the attic when you weren't using it. And so the design of those, the engineering of those changed, and along with it, so did the way you plan patterns and read patterns and draw patterns. And so the fact that we have anything left at all in America as far as skill is a good thing. I just happen to prefer the Swedish methods. All that being said, there's a struggle to try to find any books about Swedish samplers. The word sampler in Swedish is markduk. Even if you start searching in Swedish, they're hard to find. I've contacted a few people from Sweden, and they said that they don't know of a book about Swedish samplers. There are other books, though, very few. This is Scandinavian embroidery. It does have some interesting things in it. It goes through time and tells what types of embroidery was being done at what time. And there are a few things in there regarding samplers, but there's a lot of other stuff too. I bought this off one of the used book shops online. I was very happy to receive that. I've had that for a while, but it's beautiful. There are some more fun things on the market nowadays. They have Swedish textile arts. And I love this. This was a really cute book. All kinds of fun things. You can see some of them on the back. A lot of felt work with embroidery that I really enjoy. This is a lot of super cute things. So they do a lot of these bright colors and fun stuff. And so a couple episodes ago, I was talking about Christmas ornaments that I had made that were felt with embroidery on it. And I just love that look. I love everything about it. And partly because it's Scandinavian, and partly just because that's what appeals to me. So I'm going to skip on over to some of my haul to show you what I've gotten. This is a pattern called Useful Things, UEWES. These are little, there's a scissors cover, there's a needle threader, a little tiny pin cushion. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, a little, what are those called? Like they're the little oval things, you squeeze them and you can put something inside of it for your thimble. Anyway, isn't this adorable? You can find this on Etsy. It's by Susan, and I'm not even going to attempt her last name because I will butcher it. But it's Useful Things, so SEW Smalls, and they're adorable. You can get another pattern for covering a tape measure. Aren't those cute? And it actually comes with a tape measure. You can do one. I just love that. And she sells a variety of little brightly colored wools in order to start you off if you don't already have tons of wools. But I think these could be adorable both in the brights and in a toned down version. I think that it'll be gorgeous, but I'm looking forward to making those. Those just seem like something fun. I was talking to somebody else about how hard it is to find your Swedish ancestors, and especially with the way they name people. There's tons of records. The Swedes kept great records, but you have to know what to look for. You have to know where they're from and what their name was before you can start searching, which is not easy. But there are sources out there that if you do have Scandinavian ancestors, whether it's from Norway or any of those, Denmark, you can find them. I have this book. This is called the Family Tree Scandinavian Genealogy Guide. And normally I don't really like most of the genealogy guides that are out there. I don't find them particularly helpful, but this I do find helpful. This was incredibly helpful. It not only gives a brief history of each of these countries, but it kind of puts you into the context of why your ancestor may have been here or there or wherever, based on what was going on there at the time. I've not really had a chance to do a deep dive into my research since I've gotten this book, but I did learn things. And I know that when I go back to do that deep dive, I'm going to be reading this book and then going online and then reading this book and then going online. It's going to be a great reference book. So if you're doing Scandinavian research, check this one out. Then, I don't have tons of haul, but I do have a couple of things that I wanted to point out. I found Morning Glory Needleworks. She has a new Flosstube channel, or relatively new. She's actually has quite a few things out there already, and she really does a nice job. She has a lot of good information, a lot of the things that I like about old things and some collectibles and stuff like that. So you really should go check her out. I did, and then I bought one of her patterns. This is Mary Gilbert, 1779, and she does, it's a beautifully written pattern. It really is. And what I really like is she has colors listed in DMC colors for the muted color of what the sampler front looked like, and then also the brighter color on the back. So you have a choice. You can do it either way, because some people like it one way and some people like it other. She has some nice patterns, and she has a fun YouTube channel. You should go and check that out for sure. One more thing I want to pull over here. Of course, being a quilter and a stitcher, I had to invest in the threads that bind. And there are lots of probably project bags and at least a throw quilt in my future with those, because they're so beautiful. These are absolutely my colors. Absolutely my colors. Love it. And this is going to bring us, I'm trying to hurry a little bit because it's that time of year, right? There's a U-Pick strawberry patch just down the road from me. And I love strawberry shortcake, so I need to get finished so I can go pick strawberries. Let's see. Oh, we had a giveaway last time. So I did do the drawing random generator last night, and the person selected to win the Simple Harvest book was Patty Reed. So Patty, get in touch with me somehow, some way, and I will get your address and then get this mailed out to you. And then to wrap things up, the collectible for this episode is, you'll see them. This is a Swedish I'm trying to think. Svensbak. You'll also hear it called a Norwegian Tina box. And it's a sewing box, or they could have used them for other things, lunchbox or whatever, but I love the way this is designed. To get the lid off, you just kind of lift it up by pushing on these. You can see I actually do have this. This is being used as a sewing box. These are my oldie-timey sewing things for when I'm in costume doing living history. They actually made these. A lot of times you'll see them in birchwood. Sometimes you'll see it painted up with real fancy decorations. I hope that someday before I die, I have one of those because they're gorgeous, but because they are beautiful like that, they're collectible and they're quite pricey. So I haven't stumbled upon one in my price range yet. But they actually used to take tree roots to lace the band of wood together. I thought that was interesting. I wouldn't have thought to use tree roots for anything, but maybe I would have. I don't know. If I was sitting around in a cave with nothing better to do, or whatever. But I thought that was pretty ingenious to use a tree root. This is one of my favorites. My mom gave this to me years and years ago. And I love it. And then also, this is one same type of thing, only smaller, that you can use just to put things in. Wouldn't it? I thought this would be cute just for a pair of scissors and if you're doing quilting or something like that, you just have your scissors, your thread, and your needle in there. And set it somewhere. I love that. Someone called it a snuff box, but I think this one's too big for that. I think the snuff boxes were much smaller. But anyway, I love these. Looking for more of them. Not that I need any more boxes, but... so I think that I will wait. There will be another giveaway next time. I'm not going to mention what it is and how I acquired two of the same thing again. But in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy some of this good weather we're finally having. And I hope that you get out, and I hope that you can pick strawberries and make jam and do all the fun early summer things. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.